Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Satarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita. We're hearing about Narada Muni traveling, searching for the person who has received the greatest mercy from the Lord. And we heard how he met Lord Shiva. He met Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was telling him about Vaikuntha and the residents of Vaikuntha, and they were very great. But then Lord Shiva began to tell him about Prahlad Maharaj. And he said, this Prahlad Maharaj is such a great personality that wherever he is, it's the spiritual world. He doesn't have to go to Vaikuntha. He resides in Harivarsha. Even today, he's living in Harivarsha. And the Lord is there also. And he worships Lord Nrsimha. So Lord Shiva wants to point out the position of Prahlad Maharaj. First of all, he glorifies the pure devotees, the devotees of the Lord, how they're very, very dear to the Lord. The devotees of the Lord are more dear to the Lord than his own self. The Lord has so much deep love and feeling for his pure devotees. And there are the eternal associates of the Lord, people like Mahalakshmi and Sankarshan and Garuda, these kind of persons, they're senior, of course, they're eternal associates of the Lord. But then you have these newer devotees. Newer devotees mean people like Prahlad Maharaj. He's a newer devotee. So Sanatana Goswami points out that these newer devotees have a special relationship with the Lord, which is different from people like Mahalakshmi, who's his consort, and Garuda, and all these other, Ananta Shesha, and so on. These people, they're always with the Lord, but they didn't go through any difficulties. But you've got the new devotees, people like Prahlad. He went through a lot. He went through a lot of difficulties, and he proved his faithfulness and his staunch devotion to the Lord. And that's why they're very, very dear to the Lord. There was a lot of discussion about Bali Maharaj, because Bali Maharaj is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, we know, he had given charity to the Lord. But he'd done a lot of bad things also. Bali Maharaj had gone against the universal order. The universal order was that the heavenly planets was under the care of the demigods, and the lower region of the universe was given to the demons. So Bali Maharaj, coming from the demon family, he was meant to stay in Sutalaloka, Patalaloka. This place is in the bottom of the universe. It's meant for the demons. There's no light there. They have to light everything with jewels on their heads. So anyway, Bali Maharaj took his army of demons and they conquered the heavenly planets. And they took over the heavenly planets. And Bali Maharaj then put his different demons in charge of being demigods. Where the demigods were, he gave these positions to different demons. And then Bali Maharaj also promised Lord Vamanadev charity. And when he came to give charity, he couldn't keep his promise. Because Lord Vamanadev had taken nothing very valuable. He'd only taken the three worlds in the material realm, nothing to be very valuable. So Lord Vamanadev took it all with 2 steps of land. And so Bali Maharaj was dishonest. He'd promised that he would give 3 steps of land. But there was no place for the 3rd step. And then Bali Maharaj also had disobeyed his spiritual master, because his spiritual master, Sukracharya, had told him, don't give charity. And he didn't follow. And that is a very serious offense. You get an order from the spiritual master, you have to follow the order of the spiritual master. So Bali Maharaj was guilty of 3 different counts. So why did the Lord come to reside there with him in the lower region of the universe? So this question is asked, that it couldn't just be because of Bali Maharaj. It couldn't just be his punya, but it was due to Prahlad Maharaj, because of his connection with Prahlad. And then also, we have the case of Bana, who was the eldest son of Bali Maharaj. So Bana Sura, he was really a nasty person, really a bad guy. He did things like, well, he got Lord Shiva's blessing to have 1,000 arms, but then he wanted to fight with Lord Shiva. He got the blessing from Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was like his, very good friend. But he told Lord Shiva, he said, apart from you, there's nobody in the world who can give me a good fight. And so he actually was telling Lord Shiva that, you should fight me. Because Bana he was so powerful, so strong, he wanted to fight, to battle people. And he was prepared to fight with even Lord Shiva, who was like his guru. And then Bana also had kidnapped Anirudh and kept him in prison, because Anirudh had an affair with his daughter. So Bana was furious about that. And so he did a lot of bad things. But the Lord didn't kill him. The Lord cut off his arms and left him with 4 arms, like he was a resident of Vaikuntha, having 4 arms. But the Lord told him, you stay with Lord Shiva. Didn't tell him go to Vaikuntha. He said, you stay with Lord Shiva. And he gave him the blessing that he wouldn't suffer old age or disease or death, like a special body. So why did the Lord do all that for somebody like Bana, who was a demon, nasty person? Only because of Prahlad, because of Prahlad. So this is the influence of Prahlad Maharaj. And it's described here that just by seeing Prahlad, people could be so much, they could be liberated. They could, if they just saw Prahlad. What to speak of actually serve him or be near to him, but simply by seeing him, people would be liberated. And if they heard him speak, they could be immediately detached from their material existence. So the pure devotees, they have that kind of power. Just like we were singing, Chak Sudana Dilo Ye, Jammi Jammi Prabhusi, right? Chak Sudana Dilo Ye. From him, Prema Bhakti Yahoite, Avidya Vinasa. From him, ecstatic prema emanates, and by him, ignorance is destroyed. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's like that. Whatever he speaks, then people they become liberated. Their whole life changes. There's so many examples of people meeting a saintly person and they changed their life. Just immediately, just on the spot. They just gave up everything and surrendered. It was Shyamananda met Rasikananda. Rasikananda had just been married. And they met Shyamananda. And Shyamananda, he's so powerful, he's so pure. Shyamananda had gone to Jiva Goswami's school in Vrindavan. And then he come back to Orissa and he's preaching there. And there was this wedding party. And this was Rasikananda getting married. And he met with Shyamananda. And just that one moment's meeting, and Rasikananda, he just wants to be a devotee. He wants to, I mean, he stayed with his wife and so on, but totally changed. He gave up all material aspirations. All thoughts of material enjoyment were given up by the power of association with the pure devotee. So that's the benefit of the moment's association. Okay, so one good thing about Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, he feels himself to be very fallen. He doesn't think he's a great devotee. And Srila Prabhupada explains, he said, just like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have Krishnadas Kaviraj writing. He says, Jagai Madai Haiti, Muni Se Papishta, Purushera Kita Haiti, Muni Se Lagista. Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I am lower than a worm in stew. I am more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. Anybody who hears my name, they will lose their pious activities. And anybody who utters my name, they'll become sinful. I said, only the mercy of Lord Nityananda could deliver such a fallen soul as myself. So that's Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita, describing his humility. And then you have so many other examples like Rupa and Sanatan and Haridas. You know, although Rupa and Sanatan were born in Brahmana families, high-class families, most orthodox and aristocratic, but they'd become fallen by association with Muslims. But they never tried to enter the Jagannath Puri temple. They would always stay outside. They would never go in. And then you've got Pundarik Vijayanidhi. He would never even go in the Ganga. He would offer his obeisances to Ganga. And he'd take some water on his head, but he wouldn't go in to the water, because he considers himself to be fallen. So, and then of course Haridas Thakur, very, very humble, that he also never went into the Puri temple, always stayed outside chanting the holy name. So this kind of humility, this is the mood of the great devotees, these great souls who have surrendered, who have given up everything for the service of the Lord. That they think of themselves to be very fallen and very low and unqualified. And Prahlad also thinks like that, because he said, look at my family, my father, look who he was, you know, archetype demon, materialistic. He did so much tapasya to get boons from Lord Brahma that he would not die. And then he tried to fight with Lord Nrsingadev. When Lord Nrsingadev appeared to him, he tried to fight with him. He wanted to kill him. That's my father. Prahlad is saying like that. You know, my father's like that. He said, I must also be very fallen, very sinful. But there's one good thing Prahlad knows. There's one good thing, that I got association with a spiritual master. He got association with Narada Muni. Of course, that was when he was in the womb of his mother, but he never forgot that association. And he learned so much while he was within the womb. So Prahlad Maharaj, very, very humble like that. And then Lord Shiva is there along with his wife, Parvati, and they are hearing Narada glorify Prahlad. However, it's Shiva glorifying Prahlad. Lord Shiva's glorifying Prahlad. Narada's hearing this, because Lord Shiva is telling Narada, you should go and see Prahlad. But then Lord Shiva, he doesn't want to say too much, because he knows if he says too much about Prahlad, he'll become ecstatic himself. He'll become full of ecstasy just hearing the glories of Prahlad Maharaj. And he's also worried that if he glorifies Prahlad too much as being the greatest devotee, that this will upset his wife, Parvati. Parvati will go back and tell Mahalakshmi. And if Mahalakshmi knows she's not the greatest devotee, then that will be a problem. So Lord Shiva says, I better not say too much here because I don't want Parvati to get influenced. I don't want her to go and tell Mahalakshmi. because then we'll really get problems. Okay, so then we have they go off to Sutala Loka to see Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj had gone to Sutala Loka at the invitation of Lord Vamanadev. Because Lord Vamanadev, after he took the 2 steps of land, and then he sent Bali Maharaj down to Sutala Loka and said, you go back to your place, because your place, the demon's place, is in the bottom of the universe. So he sent Bali Maharaj back there, and he told Bali Maharaj, I'm also coming with you, and I will be there with you as your security guard, right? Something like that. So at that time, Lord Vamanadev told Prahlad Maharaj, because Prahlad Maharaj had also come, because Prahlad was concerned about his grandson. Bali Maharaj is his grandson, and he saw what was going on. He was worried. And so Lord Vamanadev tells Bali Maharaj, you go to Sutala Loka, I'm coming there, I'll be your doorman. And he tells Prahlad Maharaj, you can also come. You can also come and we'll have association there. So here in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Prahlad Maharaj is at Sutala Loka. And so Narada Muni has come there to meet him. And Lord Shiva had told Narada Muni, don't praise him and don't bow down to him, because if you give him all kinds of honor and respect, he'll become very angry, he won't want it. He does not like that. So he told Narada Muni, be careful when you go there. Don't do anything which will upset him. And if you go there and try to honor him too much, he will get very disturbed. So you please be careful. However, Narada Muni doesn't follow that instruction. And he comes there to Prahlad. He sees Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is engaged in meditation. His mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. And Lord Shiva comes there he wants to glorify Prahlad. But when Prahlad sees Lord Shiva, then it's Prahlad who gets up and he glorifies Lord Shiva. He glorifies Narada. And he gets Narada take a seat. He puts him on a big seat. And he brings also water to wash his feet. And he brought arghya for him to taste, to drink. And like this, so much honor he was giving to Narada Muni. And what Narada Muni, he didn't expect that. He thought he was going to glorify Prahlad, but Prahlad took the initiative. He started glorifying Narada Muni, and he sat Narada Muni down. But then Narada Muni is ready. He wants to say something to Prahlad, and he wants to tell Prahlad that actually you are the recipient of the greatest mercy of the Lord. You are the greatest devotee of the Lord. And he begins to talk about some of the different glories of Prahlad Maharaj. And of course, the main glory of Prahlad Maharaj was how he accepted all the difficulties which his father had put him through. That Hiranyakashipu had done so many things to him, but Prahlad just tolerated. He didn't mind. He didn't get upset. He didn't get angry. He didn't try to get revenge. And what does Prahlad do? Prahlad is giving Krishna consciousness. He's preaching. He was preaching. They put him in the Gurukula, and Prahlad was preaching. He was changing the mind of all the children there, making them all into devotees. He was telling them, don't waste your human life. Don't spend your time just playing with balls. You know, when we're children, you know, so you see what the children do. It's so one ball after another ball, right? This cricket game and this football and this hockey and yeah. One after another, we'll spend so many years of our life just playing with balls. I may see people all over the world. They're crazy for these things. Whenever there's some match on, then people are watching and they want to know, oh, who won, what was the score, and like this, you know. And so this Prahlad Maharaj said, you know, Komar acharet pragno dharmam bhagavatamrita. From the age of 5, we meant to cultivate Krishna consciousness, Bhagavat Dharma. When I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, I was already 21, 22. I thought I've wasted so many years of my life. I regretted I came to Krishna consciousness so late in life. We should actually begin Krishna consciousness from the beginning of life. Then it's much better, much easier. But of course, you can do it at any point in your life. And we see Ajamil also, at the point of death, he was able to become devotee, surrender himself. So there are examples. People, different points in the life, but it's much easier from the beginning of life. If from the beginning of life we get that training, we get that education, then it's so valuable. Sometimes we see children who did have that training, sometimes we see that they don't take advantage of Krishna consciousness. Although they had that training as children, somehow as they grow up, they lose their interest in Krishna consciousness. So this is due to bad association, just due to bad association. Just like Bana. Now Bana's family, they were all devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, they all worship Lord Vishnu. But then Bana comes along and Bana becomes a devotee of Lord Shiva. He becomes a Shakti, Shaktavai. Shakti, what do you say? A Shakti, he follows the Shaivite. Just say Shaivite. Shakta. He becomes a Shakta. Yes, he becomes a Shakta. Right. And he becomes different from the other family members and cultivates all the demonic qualities. So sometimes it happens that people come to Krishna consciousness, they had the opportunity in their childhood, but they grow up, they don't take advantage. But there are others. It's not every case like that. It's up to the individual. Everyone is given independence. We have that choice. Either we want to serve Krishna or serve Maya. Either we surrender to Krishna or we surrender to Maya. People think, oh, surrender to Maya, I'm free, I can do what I like. Sometimes people say, oh yeah, you people, you have to follow so many rules and regulations. They said, I'm free, I can do what I like. Well, it's not true. That's a lie. You're not doing what you like. You're doing what the modes of nature tell you to do. You're controlled by the modes of nature. Bhagavad Gita talks about following the regulative principles of freedom. These principles which we follow actually give freedom, freedom from the modes of nature. Mahatmanas tumamparta daivim prakritim ashrita. The great souls, devotees, you're all great souls, you're all Mahatmas, are under the protection of the divine energy. So that's the difference, that the devotees are under the control of the divine energy. Those who have surrendered to Maya, they are controlled by the modes of nature. So both ways you're controlled, but either you're controlled by the spiritual energy or by the material energy. And if we are controlled by the material energy, then you're in for a tough time. Material nature is a very cruel master. We know Mother Durga carries her trident, and that trident is meant to put more and more miseries into the living entities in conditioned life. But if we take shelter of the Lord in the spiritual energy, then we're under a very bright situation. We are controlled by the Lord, but that control is loving and pleasing. So we want to understand how to make good use of our independence. Independence, free will to choose one or the other, Krishna or Maya. It's very simple. And we should not doubt the advantage of taking shelter of Lord Krishna. So, Prahlad Maharaj is described as the best of the Vaishnavas. So when Narada Muni met him, he was in a very secluded place. Prahlad Maharaj always remembering Krishna. He's always practicing that kind of absorption of the mind in Krishna. So that smaranam, that process of smaranam, in order to remember the Lord, first you have to hear and chant. If you have not heard and chanted, then it will be very difficult to remember. In the Ashtanga Yoga process, smaranam is the 7th step in Ashtanga Yoga. Right? There's yam, niyam, pranayam, or yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. Dhyana is the 7th step of the Ashtanga Yoga process. So Prabhupada compares it to the 7th step of Ashtanga is like the 3rd step in Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, it's Shravanam, Kirtan, Smaranam. So the remembering comes after you've heard and chanted. If we have not heard and chanted, it will be very difficult to remember the Lord. People often say they want to meditate. Okay, you want to meditate, then you first hear and chant. You first do hearing and chanting, then you can practice meditation. But if you have not heard and chanted properly, then you will never be able to properly remember the Lord. You cannot just simply jump to the 3rd step of Bhakti Yoga, to remembering, without hearing and chanting. So Prahlad Maharaj, he can remember because he heard. He heard Narada Muni when he was in the womb of his mother. He had heard. And from his previous life also, he had some opportunities. So that hearing is important. We hear nicely, then we can chant nicely. And then when we hear and chant nicely, then remembrance will come automatically. Automatically, remembrance will come. So it's so important. Prabhupada talks about hearing and chanting as being the root of the creeper of devotion. The roots, you must have very strong roots in order to grow up the creeper of bhakti. And these roots are Shravanam and Kirtan. We have to regularly, for a long time, hear and chant. In the third canto, Kapila Shiksha, it's mentioned there that we have to hear for a long time. Of course, some people may be purified already from previous lifetimes. They can hear and they can quickly remember. But for most of us, I don't know about you, I know for myself, I have to hear for a long time. I have to hear. And gradually by hearing and hearing, then the mind becomes settled. So Prahlada, he offers worship to Narada Muni, but Narada Muni wants to glorify Prahlad. He wants to tell Prahlad about his wonderful activities, how he was tortured so much by his father. Then finally Lord Nrsingadev came and killed him. And then Lord Nrsingadev wants Prahlad to take a boon. You must take some blessing. But Prahlad doesn't want any blessing. And so this is a little frustrating for Lord Nrsingadev, because Lord Nrsingadev wants, no, you have to take some blessing. So finally, Prahlad Maharaj agreed that he would take the throne of his father. He would become the successor, because Hiranyakashipu had been the king of the demons. So the throne was vacant. So Prahlad will now take the throne. But Prahlad makes it clear to Lord Nrsingadev that I will accept that position only with the understanding that I'm taking that position so that I can do good for others, that I want to bring others, I want to liberate others for their benefit, not for my benefit. So this is the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. And that was why Lord Chaitanya, when he heard Vasudev Datta prayed to Lord Chaitanya that let me take the sins of all the people and I will stay here and suffer. Let them all be liberated. Let them all go back home, back to Godhead. And when Lord Chaitanya heard that, Lord Chaitanya cried. He was so happy. It was so pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said, you must be Prahlad Maharaj, because this was the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. You see, let everybody else be liberated and I will stay here and suffer for them. And Prabhupada in the purport, he writes there about how, he said, this is much, much, much greater than Jesus Christ. He said, Jesus Christ died for the sins of his followers. But here is Vasudev Datta, willing to accept the sins of all living entities and let them all be liberated. Now, Jesus Christ wasn't thinking like that. He was, But he was only thinking about those people who were near to him or who were connected somewhere with him. The humans, at least. Only the humans. But Vasudeva Datta is thinking about all living entities. And Lord Chaitanya said, your wish will be fulfilled. Your desire will be granted. And Lord Chaitanya gave examples. He said, just like the man may have a herd, if one has a herd, a big herd of Kamadhenu cows, and you lose one goat, will you worry about one goat when you have a whole herd of Kamadhenu cows? Then one goat is insignificant. Or if you have a bag of mustard seeds and you lose one mustard seed from the bag, you know, one mustard seed from a big bag of mustard seeds. You know, here in India, they grow a lot of mustard, right? In Mayapur, I see they grow it a lot everywhere. It's easy to grow. It's the easiest thing. We were trying to grow things in Mayapur. Very difficult to grow things. You grow something, some creature will come and eat it. Some bugs will get it. You know, the jackals or the hogs or different birds or whatever, you know, they'll all come and eat things. But mustard, no problem. Somehow the mustard's not a problem. It grows quite well and you get the crop. And so you get a big bag of mustard seeds, but one mustard seed, nothing, it's insignificant. And then he gives one more example. There's a special fruit. I can't remember the name of that fruit. Anybody remember the name? It's a special, anyway, I don't know. It's not a name which I know, which I'm familiar with, but there's a fruit. And on the tree, there are thousands and thousands of this fruit, you see? And so if you lose one fruit from the tree, you know, there's so many other fruits on the tree. Why you care about one fruit? And so Lord Chaitanya is giving these examples to say, one universe is already delivered by the desire of Vasudeva Datta. Why should we care? Why should we, what is the loss for the Lord? There are unlimited universes. And so what he's delivered all the living entities from one universe, not very difficult for the Lord, very easy for him to do that. He creates the whole cosmic manifestation and he maintains it and he destroys it. So if he wants to deliver the living entities from one universe, he can easily do it. And that was the desire of Vasudeva Datta, and the Lord is controlled by the desire of his pure devotees. Although the Lord is the supreme controller, we say Ishvara Parama Krishna, we say Krishna is the supreme controller, but Krishna said, I am controlled by the pure love of my devotees. The pure love of my devotees they're controlling me. All right, we say Krishna is Madan Mohan, Srimati Radharani, Madan Mohan Mohini. Krishna can control Cupid, but Srimati Radharani, she can attract Krishna. So the same way, why Srimati Radharani can attract Krishna? Because of her mode of pure devotion. Where there is pure devotion, the Lord is conquered. Jita jitopi asitais trilokyam. All right, Lord Brahma's prayer that just Lord Brahma prays, different prayers were offered. This was the verse quoted by Ramananda Rai. Lord Chaitanya wanted to hear about pure devotional service, and Ramananda Rai quoted this verse from Lord Brahma's prayers in 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Jane prayasam unda pasya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmutkaritam bhavadiya bhartam stane stita shrutigatan tanvan manobir ye prayaso jita jitopi asita istrilopya. Krishna said, I'm a Jita, I'm never conquered, but I'm conquered by the pure love of my devotees. So Lord Nrsimhadev also is giving that. When Lord Nrsimhadev killed Prahlad, killed Hiranyakashipu, immediately after he killed Hiranyakashipu, he gave Prahlad benediction. He blessed him. You will be the best devotee. You will be the greatest devotee in the past and in the future also. You are going to be the best devotee. That was the blessing given by Lord Nrsimhadev. And Lord Shiva, or Narada Muni rather, he's telling all this to Prahlad Maharaj. So this is uncomfortable for Prahlad to hear all of this. He doesn't want to hear this. This is not what the pure devotee wants to hear. One who praises you, he's your enemy. And one who criticizes you, he's a friend. Okay, Hare Krishna. Any questions? Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It was very nice to hear about Prahlad Maharaj pastimes from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. One question was connected to this and one was not so connected. So as we hear that if one becomes a pure devotee, then 14 generations get liberated. So do we take the meaning that liberation is not literally liberation from the birth and death cycle, but he gets an opportunity to practice bhakti?
Yes. Well, the word liberation can be used in different ways. It can mean, factual liberation to understand your swarup, to know what is your swarup with Krishna in the spiritual world. That is factual liberation. But we also use liberation in terms of freedom from the modes of nature, or freedom from birth and death. So different ways in which the word can be used.
As yesterday I was hearing you that during Prabhupada's time, everybody was going for Nagar Sankirtan. And,
going for what?
Nagar Sankirtan, which is not the reality nowadays happening. So in your opinion, what is that which needs to be improved or needs to be applied in general and also from brahmachari's perspective so that they can serve nicely the mission? What was the scenario that time and what is lacking especially, which needs to be inculcated in your observation?
Well, everything in terms of time and place and circumstances. You have to understand that in Srila Prabhupada's time, we were an ashram-based movement. The members were all living in the ashram. And they were also young, right? So it's a little different, quite a bit different today. Our society is much more congregation-based. And the devotees are not so young as they used to be. We have young devotees, but we have a lot of older devotees also. So people also have jobs now. As I said, because it's congregation, they have jobs, they're working. And in Prabhupada's time, we were ashram, we were living in the ashram, we didn't have any job. We just stayed in the temple and we would go out during the day, and generally when we would go out, we go out for Harinam Sankirtan. And we would try to distribute some literature at the same time. And so like that, we were You know, this is how we maintained the temple. The temple was just simply maintained by book distribution. There was no income apart from what came from book distribution. And the devotees, their engagement was Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution. So this way devotees were surviving and maintaining the movement. Over the years, of course, things changed. People got a bit older. Some people went to work, find jobs, you know, get married, they have children, they need, you know, they can't just live off the temple so easily. And it's difficult for a temple to maintain people with a family. Some temples do it. They're able, somehow they're able, you know, if somebody's very important, if somebody's really doing very valuable service for the temple, then temple somehow may be able, they may be able to maintain them, but not too many. You can't maintain too many householders like that. It's certainly a burden on the temple, and it can be difficult for the devotee also, because temple can only give very minimum allowance. And the person may want more. And so they find jobs, things. Anyway, Harinam Sankirtan still goes on. You know, sometimes it's more on the weekend, well, maybe one night a week. And like in England, in London, they have a Harinam which goes out on Saturday evening. And they'll go out for a few hours on Saturday evening. And many devotees will come. And during the week, sometimes there's maybe a couple of regular brahmacharis, 2 or 3 brahmacharis who will go out every day and do Harinam just on their own. So like that, Harinam goes on in different ways, to different extents. But Prabhupada considered book distribution also to be Sankirtan. If somebody is distributing the books and if somebody else is preaching, then preaching the holy name, that is also Sankirtan. Have some preaching programs. That is also, Sankirtan can be understood in many different ways. You know, worshipping the deity is also Sankirtan.
There's a question on Zoom, Maharaj. Please accept my respectful obeisances to your dust of the lotus feet. If we praise and glorify devotees, do we become their enemies, Maharaj? You mentioned that
somebody praises you becomes your enemy.
If I praise somebody, do I become his enemy? Because we hear that glorifying devotees purifies us. That's the question.
So, if somebody praises us, well, it's not good for our false ego. Because we'll think, oh, yes, we'll think, oh, this sounds very nice. I like to hear this, you know. My praise, my glories, somebody sings my glories. We think, oh, it sounds very nice to my ears, you know. I'm feeling, so this is not very good for us to be praised. Actually, of the two, neither is good. Neither praise nor criticism is very good. But if you have to choose between praise and criticism, better criticism than praise. Because with criticism, and Prabhupada would quote Chanakya Pandit, he said the duty of the father is to find the fault. The father and the spiritual teacher, they will find the fault to get more effort from the son or from the disciple, that he will, you know, oh yeah, you did. Just like, we would come to Prabhupada with our book distribution results and you think, oh, okay, next year double it. You know? That was Prabhupada, how Prabhupada responded. You know. So too much praise is not good for the disciple. One devotee was telling how he was leading a group of brahmacharis. They were collecting money, and he would bring the money and give it all to Prabhupada, and he would put it on the table to Prabhupada. Prabhupada would just go, huh? Prabhupada, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say thank you or well done or anything like that. Just okay. Yeah. So you praise someone, it doesn't, we say puffed up, right? We talk about being puffed up. Like a puri puffs up. So we don't want to be puffed up. So that's why we don't want to praise. Somebody praises you, you will become puffed up. Huh? We glorifying others. Yes, well, glorify them. It's okay to glorify them, but not in their presence. And what should we do? What should we think? If we are praised, then we should give the credit to the Guru. We give the credit to Guru and Krishna. We don't, the credit is not for us. If there's any credit, we give that to the spiritual teacher and to Krishna. Right? It's not, I couldn't do anything, but it's going to Krishna and Guru. So we have to see in that way. We are not the doer, we are simply instruments. In that way, we don't
Bali, for instance, you mentioned that we come to the offense. Actually, since he knew that he's going to give alms to the Lord himself, so although he had to displease his guru, so how do we understand that? Because he's actually serving the Lord.
Yes, we can say that he was serving the Lord, but at the same time, Shukracharya was his guru, right? The guru told him, don't give. And so, he gave up the guru. He was Shukracharya, the guru of the demons. And so he didn't follow the instructions. So he had to definitely get reaction to that. And you can say, well, he's not the real guru, but still he was the guru. He was the guru of the demons. And Bali Maharaj was one of the demons. He was leading the demon army. So he's still responsible to the guru. And Shukracharya, remember, Shukracharya had taken, brought him back to life after he'd been killed. Bali Maharaj at one point had been killed, and Shukracharya had brought him back to life. The Shukracharya had that kind of power, so technically there was a lot of faith there.
Still not clear to me. You said like who criticize you is a clear plan. My guru spoke like if you criticize your guru, it is an offense for the plan. If what? If someone criticizes Vaishnavas, it is an offense.
If somebody criticizes someone, and then it's an offense. Yeah, but it's the job of the spiritual master to find fault and to criticize. It's the duty of the spiritual master to find out the fault and to criticize. To get more, and this way to get the disciple or the student to do more. And Prabhupada said, you see, because I am honeycombed with defects, I see defects in others. So, just like father's duty is to see the fault, get more from the son. So the guru is like that, wants to get more from the disciple. So find out the weak point or the fault. This could be better. You could have done this. Why you didn't do that? This way, get some improvement to get more. Yes, we don't criticize, but it's the duty of the guru, if you're in that responsible position as being a spiritual teacher, a spiritual authority, then it's your job to criticize, to find out more, to get more, to improve.
I have seen one program, my school time, like encouragement is better to do than discouragement. Is it wrong?
Well, that is encouragement. When they find out the fault, that's encouraging you to do better. That is the idea. By pointing out some fault, that will encourage you to do better. But if you don't see the fault, if you say, oh, very good, you've done so that, you will think, oh, okay, you don't have to do anything. You won't be encouraged to do more. You become lazy, you become slack. So Prabhupada said, I am pushing, my Guru Maharaj pushed me, I am pushing you. He said, this is the parampara. You understand? Yeah, Ramachandra Puri, there was a person in Chaitanya Lila called Ramachandra Puri. So he had to have a criticizing, fault finding. So that is not good. Like Ramachandra Puri came to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, I heard about you Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I heard you eat too much. So many insects are running around here in this room. You must have been keeping sweets here. And that's why so many insects are here now. Now I know you Gaudiya Vaishnavas eat too much, eat too many sweets. And when Lord Chaitanya heard this, Lord Chaitanya ordered his servant, from now on, reduce my prasadam to 1/3 of what I usually take. And so long as Ramachandra Puri was there, he would take less prasadam. So all the devotees were very pained because they liked to see Lord Chaitanya take prasadam. But Lord Chaitanya wouldn't take so long as he was there, so long as Ramachandra Puri was there. But because Ramachandra Puri was always fault-finding, he even tried to point out fault in his own spiritual master. He tried to point out fault in his own guru. He came to his guru was Madhavendra Puri, and Madhavendra Puri was feeling separation from Krishna at the time of leaving his body. He was reciting that verse. But there's a verse, a famous verse, which is spoken by Srimati Radharani. And it's feeling separation from Krishna. So Madhavendra Puri was preparing himself for leaving the body, and he was cultivating the mood of separation from Krishna. And Ramachandra Puri came there and said to him, oh Guru Maharaj, you should relish the Brahman. Why don't you just feel the Brahman and be joyful? Why are you lamenting? Brahma Buddha Prasanatma. You should be a joyful soul. You should relish Brahman. And Madhavendra Puri looked at him and said, you get out of here. If I have to see your face at the time of death, I will never achieve my desired destination. So his guru did not bless him because he was trying to instruct his own guru. That's offensive. You try to instruct your spiritual master. And as a result of that, he became a victim of fault finding. And he went everywhere and he tried to find fault with Lord Chaitanya. So these kind of things happen. So it shouldn't just be fault finding for the sake of finding fault. It must be constructive criticism. But of the two, better to avoid. But as you have in, better not to praise, better not to criticize. Unless you have the duty as maybe you're a father or a spiritual teacher, spiritual authority, then you can criticize. Understand? Okay, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada Vina.